I will always remember this thing that I saw every week at the church I grew up in. So my dad was the pastor of the church, and when we went there, it was 200 people on a dirt road in South Georgia. Now it's 10,000 people. But sitting on the front row of this little country church, I saw something every week that I thought was amazing. I'd see my dad come down front after preaching the sermon, and then people would come up and talk to him, and then some of those people would start following Jesus right then. I thought that was awesome. And what stuck out to me, because I was young, is that a lot of the people who would come up were younger people, like other kids or teenagers or younger adults. And my dad is a huge guy. Like, his hands are massive. They're like the size of a baseball glove. It's like Hal's hands. Just picture Hal's hands. And so the picture I have in my mind is my dad's massive hand and some young person's little hand holding his hand, talking about Jesus and giving their life to Christ. And I think about that almost every week, because that church was reaching the next generation with the gospel, and I was part of the next generation they reached. So fast forward with me, years later, somehow I end up working at Mars Hill Church in Seattle. Yes, the infamous church from the podcast. I'm sorry to bring it up, but I'll never forget being in a meeting where the discussion is about where we want to plant campuses. And the conversation went like, hey, we have thousands of sermon listeners in this city, so let's plant campuses in all these cities. But by the end of the meeting, we realized we were not going to plant in any of those cities because we did not have leaders who could do that. And we didn't have leaders because we had not reached and trained up the next generation for that task. So we were at 15,000 people, but totally stuck, okay? So fast forward with me one more time to today, to Andy Graham. I just added him to the list. And Todd Wilson and Tom Rayner and David Kinnaman putting out research that we've all heard that says that the church in America right now is having a hard time reaching the next generation. We've all heard it, right? And thinking about this, there's nothing wrong with Jesus' church today. Like, if you ask Jesus right now, what's the best thing in the world? He's going to say the church, right? The bride of Christ. She's amazing. She's powerful. There's nothing else like her. But we all know that we're having a hard time getting the next generation to come to our churches. And so we all know what we need to do about that, which is go to them. We've been talking about it for 24 hours, and it's been awesome. The Great Commission says, go and make disciples. It's very simple, but very hard. So this year, we planted a church called Monochurch that launched as a network of house churches in 5 states that functions as one unified church. And our mission is very simple. It is to go to the next generation with the gospel online and then disciple them in our homes. So that is our take on go and make disciples. Do the go part online, do the disciple part in homes. And as a church, we're called to be many things. Everything the church was in Acts 2, everything Jesus commands us to be, but we focus all of our energy on doing just those 2 things. And we're bringing together 3 groups of people to do this. So I'm in a Christian band called Go Ship, and I'm taking what I learned from the band and what I learned from mega churches to do the go part online. But then we've partnered with a disciple-making movement in India who has planted 15,000 churches in the past 7 years, and they're training us how to do the discipleship part in homes. So we were on Zoom with them last night. They train our house church leaders on Zoom. Come to the Q&A for stories because we got some crazy stories. There's a 3rd group, but I'll tell you about them later. But what I love about our mission is that it's infinitely scalable because the Great Commission is infinitely scalable. Like, we can reach millions of people online. We can disciple millions of people in homes. And Jesus said, hey, disciples, you have the power of the Holy Spirit. Now go reach everybody. So church history can be told in 3 parts: the Roman roads, the internet, and the printing press. You already know how it went on the Roman roads and the printing press. But now we're about to see a 3rd explosion on the internet. But I'm going to retitle the 3rd chapter because it's not really the internet, because we've been distributing sermons online for decades, right? It really goes like this: church history, Roman roads, printing press, and then the 2-year period where every human being on earth had to learn how to use Zoom. It doesn't sound quite as profound when I say it like that. But we all learned at the same time that the physical communities we're a part of are connected digitally, whether you're FaceTiming your mom or doing a Zoom call with your boss. And what that means for the church is that vast physical communities can be connected digitally. And there's no limit to the size of a church in a post-COVID world. So I'm asking you to give us $25,000 because we can reach 600,000 people with $25,000. And we can disciple 125 people in our homes with $25,000. This summer, we reached more people on YouTube than Life Church did, Craig Rochelle's church. And I'm pausing because it sounds like I'm lying because they invented online church and we only have one staff. But it's true, and I promise you that could not have happened before COVID. So what I got to tell you is you are the third group I was talking about. We can actually reach the next generation with the gospel if we work on it together. Our goal is to plant 3,200 house churches, one for every county in America, and that's our 6-year goal. And by doing that, we're making our way towards our 12-year goal, which is to reach an entire generation with the gospel. So what I'm saying is we can reach the next generation, but I want to try to convince you that we together can reach an entire generation. Does that sound good? Would you want to do that if that was possible? Well, it is possible right now. We can reach people like Tucker in Seattle, who is the first person baptized at Monochurch. People like the Reeds, who reached out to us on YouTube, and now they lead a house church in Dallas. Or the third generation of house churches in Georgia and Phoenix, and the kids we just baptized in Nashville. We can reach an entire generation. That's what I'm trying to convince you of today. And we named our church Monochurch because in John 17, Jesus, the night before he died, prayed that his church would be one. So that's where our weird name and weird logo comes from. But he prayed that we would be one because no one church can reach an entire generation alone, right? We have to work together. Beyond the money, we want to work with you, okay? So today on YouTube, we'll reach 11,000 people and 3,300 of them will respond. So let's work together on discipling those people. At your churches, our house churches, it doesn't matter at all to me which one. Because even though that generation will not come to us today, right now, they are waiting for us to go to them. So my plea to you is let's all go together, all right? Thank you.